service of CNC Worldwide.
The Daily is a service of CNC Worldwide and Jib Jab greetings. I'm Bud Lowell, and your full AccuWeather forecast is up on top of your CNC local news page. The normalization continues after the passage of Megastorm Sandy. Rochester Gas and Electric crews have made considerable progress the past 24 hours in restoring the electrical service knocked out Monday night by Sandy. The utility still expects to have all service in the Rochester area restored by midnight Friday. RG&E says 1,485 customers were still waiting to have power restored as of 7:30 Friday morning. That's for Monroe County. That was down from more than 4,400 24 hours ago. RG&E's partner company, New York State Electric and Gas, said it would have the vast majority of its downstate customers reconnected by midnight Sunday, the 4th. NYSEG says the rest of its customers in the areas hardest hit by the storm should be back up by the night of November 7th. That's assuming crews don't find any additional damage as they continue to work through the crippled power grid. NYSEG said virtually all of its Rochester area customers have their service restored. Meanwhile, Governor Andrew Cuomo sent out a letter to the heads of New York's 7 utility companies, electric and gas utility companies, essentially saying he is holding their feet to the fire.
If the state believes they were not diligent and aggressive in their activities to restore power, they could be subject to monetary penalties. They could even lose their certification. I have communicated this orally to most, and we are also releasing a letter that I sent them today. I believe, as I said, most of the companies are working very hard and trying their best.
For those in the Rochester area still waiting to get the power back on, RG&E started handing out packaged dry ice Thursday to keep refrigerators and freezers cold. They'll be giving free dry ice away again through 8 p.m. at the RG&E Customer Service Office, 400 West Avenue in Rochester, west of downtown. It's a drive-through center. RG&E says wear gloves. Handling dry ice with your bare hands can cause burns and frostbite. Turning now to the upcoming election, the teeter-totter campaign between Democrat Louise Slaughter and Republican Maggie Brooks for the 25th Congressional District seat has teetered back firmly in Louise Slaughter's favor. A third poll by the Siena Research Institute at Siena College finds the incumbent Democrat has regained the double-digit lead over her Republican Party challenger. If the election were held at the time of the poll instead of next week, 52% of likely voters would go for Slaughter, up from 49% 2 weeks ago, compared to 42% for Brooks, down from 44% in the middle of October. Here's how the numbers break down. Siena College pollster Steve Greenberg said while the race tightened in the first half of October and Slaughter saw her lead drop from 10 points to 5 points, over the last 2 weeks, Slaughter has regained the momentum and extended her lead over Brooks back to 10 points. And Greenberg adds, although Brooks maintains the support of approximately 3/4 of Republicans and continues to have a small lead among independents, Slaughter is crushing Brooks among Democrats, and they have a 9-point enrollment edge in the district, a whopping 86 to 12% margin. The poll also shows Slaughter benefiting from a gender gap between voters in the new 25th. Women favor her by 55 to 38%. Men are more closely divided. They favor Slaughter by a slight 48 to 46% margin. The 25th is a new district. It was drawn following the 2010 census. Only about a third of the voters in the new 25th are currently represented by Louise Slaughter, but the poll finds she has a commanding 66 to 28% lead with them, and that is more than enough to offset Brooks' slight 3-point lead among voters currently represented by other members of Congress.
I'm Louise Slaughter, and I approve this message.
One more thing seems clear from this Siena poll. It appears very few hearts and minds have been won over by the shock and awe campaign of negative advertising that has been inescapable in the local media.
I'm Maggie Brooks, and I approve this message.
Advertising aimed by the candidates at each other and by outside interest groups at both candidates. Greenberg says Slaughter continues to have a strong, positive favorability rating, largely unchanged over the last 5 weeks of a bruising campaign. Meanwhile, Brooks' favorability rating has dropped only moderately from a 9-point positive to a 1-point negative. This could be the start of some big changes for the Rochester City School District. City School Superintendent Bohan Vargas handed a plan to the city's Board of Education Thursday night that says he will cope with two realities. Declining enrollment means the district is spending millions of dollars each year to maintain excess space and outdated facilities. At the same time, it's scraping to fund classroom education. Superintendent Vargas says most people will understand why many Rochester schools need to be modernized before those two things can be reconciled. In a letter to city parents, he says nearly half the city's 51 school buildings are more than 75 years old, some so old they can never be made anything but substandard. At the same time, the district is maintaining space to serve more than 36,000 students when the current enrollment is less than 31,000 and projected to still decline. Vargas says the district is leasing space for 7 student programs, even though it has vacant classrooms nearby, because the district-owned buildings are too outdated. The state of New York has pledged $1.2 billion to the Rochester City School District for modernizing facilities. The district set up a Rochester Joint Schools Construction Board, the RJSCB, and it hired nationally recognized experts to recommend the best way of using that money. Well, Vargas says he and the RJSCB have worked out a 10-year plan to get the district on track. You can see it on the City Board of Education webpage. The basic points, though, are these. 18 outdated school buildings will be completely modernized, with students and staff moving to swing space while their building is renovated or rebuilt. 28 schools are in good enough condition they'll get regular upkeep and be continually evaluated as the plan is completed. 5 schools in poor condition will eventually be closed. Students and staff will move to more modern buildings. The recommendation does not propose any currently operating school district building will close until 2015, and that will allow time for a well-planned transition with as little disruption as possible. And finally, programs that are currently housed in those leased buildings will be moved to district buildings wherever possible. A top priority is finding a permanent home for the Flower City School, number 54. Superintendent Vargas says he knows this is a lot for people to take in, so between now and mid-January, when the final draft of the plan is supposed to go to the school board, Vargas says the district will hold 8 public meetings, and he will be available at each of them to discuss the proposal. This starts with a neighbor night, Monday, November 5th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Nathaniel Hawthorne School number 3 at 85 Adams Street. To the left of this window are links to these and other stories, and at the bottom of the page in that gray bar, links that you can use. Post us directly, community news you've heard, tips that you want checked out, stories or commentaries that you've written, shout-outs to people you think need a salute. We also, because we focus on community news, want to see your birth announcements, wedding announcements, business opening announcements, all that sort of thing. Just post it and send it right to us, and you'll see it up here on CNC News. Next news as it happens, updates when necessary. I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News, and have a great weekend.